Social Psychology and Communities. Part 1. Social Psychology. Meaning and definition. Social psychology is the scientific study of how individuals think, feel, and behave in social contexts. It focuses on how people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by the actual, imagined, or implied presence of others. Changes in social psychology. Social psychology has evolved due to cultural shifts, technological advancements, and changes in human interactions. Key transformations include increased focus on cultural diversity and globalization, advancements in technology and social media influencing human interactions, neuroscientific approaches integrating biological perspectives, emphasis on real-world applications, including health, law, and business psychology. Characteristics of changes in social psychology. Adaptation to new research methods, e.g., AI, neuroscience. Expansion into new domains, e.g., digital behavior, online communities. Increased interdisciplinary collaboration, e.g., with sociology, neuroscience. Growing emphasis on real-world applications in social justice, marketing, and politics. Measurement of social psychology. Characteristics of measuring social psychology. Social psychology uses scientific methods to measure social behaviors, attitudes, and perceptions through experiments, controlled settings to test cause-effect relationships, surveys and questionnaires, self-reported data on attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, observational studies, naturalistic observations in real-world settings, psychophysiological measures, brain activity, hormone levels, implicit measures, reaction time tests to assess unconscious biases, e.g., implicit association test. Perception. Meaning. Perception is the process by which individuals interpret sensory information to understand their environment. Characteristics of perception. Subjective, influenced by individual experiences, expectations, and emotions. Selective, we focus on certain stimuli while ignoring others. Organized, our brain structures sensory input into a coherent picture. Dynamic, perception changes based on new experiences and context. Determinants of perception. Physiological factors, e.g., sensory capabilities, age. Psychological factors, e.g., emotions, expectations. Social and cultural factors, e.g., norms, values, upbringing. Context, e.g., environment, situation. Types of perception. Depth perception, ability to perceive three-dimensional space. Movement perception, understanding motion and tracking objects. Social perception, the process of interpreting information about others in social contexts. Social perception. Mechanism of social perception. Impression formation, developing an overall idea of a person based on limited information. Nonverbal cues, using facial expressions, body language, tone of voice. Stereotyping and bias, applying pre-existing beliefs to interpret behavior. Understanding temporary states. Temporary emotions or moods that influence how we perceive others, e.g., stress, fatigue, happiness. Understanding permanent characteristics, attribution. Long-term personality traits and behavioral tendencies. Attribution, how we explain others' behaviors either due to their personality, internal, or situation, external. Wiener's attribution theory. Bernard Wiener's attribution theory explains how people attribute causes to success or failure. It includes locus of control, internal, personal effort, versus external, luck, task difficulty. Stability, whether the cause is stable, unchanging, or unstable. Controllability, whether the individual had control over the situation. Characteristics of social perception. Influenced by expectations and biases. Guided by cultural and societal norms. Affected by nonverbal cues and first impressions. Shapes interpersonal relationships and communication. Factors affecting social perception. Personal factors, individual differences, emotions, motivations. Situational factors, context, social setting, cultural background. Cognitive biases, stereotypes, halo effect, confirmation bias. Attitude formation. Meaning and definition of attitude formation. Attitude formation refers to the process by which individuals develop evaluations of people, objects, or ideas over time. Definition: an attitude is a learned predisposition to respond favorably or unfavorably to a particular object, person, or situation. Allport, 1935. Theories of attitude formation. Several theories explain how attitudes develop. A. Heider's balance theory, 1958. Based on the principle of cognitive consistency. Suggests people strive for balance in their relationships and thoughts. Example: if you like a friend, P, and your friend likes a product, O, you are more likely to develop a positive attitude toward that product, X. B. Katz's functional theory, 1960. Proposes that attitudes serve different functions for individuals. Utilitarian function, helps gain rewards and avoid punishments. Ego defensive function, protects self-esteem. Value expressive function reflects core values. Knowledge function helps organize and understand the world. C. Kelman's three-process theory, 1958. Explains attitude formation based on three processes. Compliance, adopting an attitude to gain approval or avoid disapproval. Identification, forming attitudes to be similar to a group/person we admire. Internalization, accepting an attitude because it aligns with our values. Components of attitude formation. Attitudes consist of three primary components, ABC model. Affective component, feelings, emotional reactions, e.g., I love coffee. Behavioral component, actions, how attitude influences behavior, e.g., buying coffee daily. Cognitive component, thoughts, beliefs about an object, e.g., coffee boosts energy. Characteristics of these components. Interdependent, each component influences the other. Varying strength, some attitudes are emotionally driven, while others are logical. Stable versus malleable, some attitudes are deeply ingrained, while others can change. Perspective of attitude formation. Social learning perspective, attitudes are learned from parents, peers, and media. Genetic perspective, some attitudes may have a hereditary basis. Experiential perspective, personal experiences shape attitudes over time. Characteristics of attitude. Learned, not innate but acquired through experience. Relatively stable, once formed, attitudes tend to persist. Influence behavior, guide decision-making and actions. Can change, under certain conditions, attitudes can be modified. Directed toward an object, always have a reference point, person, idea, thing. Attitude change. Definition. Attitude change refers to the modification of an individual's existing attitudes due to persuasion, new experiences, or cognitive dissonance. Theories explaining attitude change. Cognitive dissonance theory, Festinger, 1957. People feel discomfort when holding conflicting attitudes and try to reduce it. Example, a smoker who believes smoking is harmful may quit to resolve dissonance. Elaboration likelihood model, Petty and Cacioppo, 1986. 2 routes to persuasion. Central route, deep processing, influenced by strong arguments. Peripheral route, superficial processing, influenced by external cues, e.g., celebrity endorsement. Social judgment theory, Sharif, 1961. People accept or reject new attitudes based on their existing attitude range. Types of attitude change. 1. Congruent attitude change. A change in attitude that aligns with an individual's previous beliefs or values. Reinforces or strengthens an already existing attitude. 2. Incongruent attitude change. A change that opposes or contradicts a person's previous beliefs or values. Represents a shift in perspective, often due to persuasive communication, cognitive dissonance, or new experiences. Factors affecting attitude change. Source of the message, credibility, attractiveness, and expertise of the source matter. Message characteristics, logical arguments, emotional appeal, and repetition affect change. Audience characteristics, intelligence, personality, and prior attitudes influence receptivity. Social influence, peer pressure, and cultural norms shape attitudes. Situational factors, changes in the environment or personal experiences. Attitude measurement. Attitude measurement is the process of quantifying people's beliefs, feelings, and tendencies toward objects, people, or concepts. Attitudes are not directly observable but can be inferred through responses to questions or statements. Assumptions in attitude measurement. Attitudes can be measured indirectly. Since attitudes are psychological constructs, they are measured through responses rather than direct observation. Attitudes influence behavior. It is assumed that attitudes have some impact on individuals' actions. Attitudes are stable to some extent. Although attitudes can change over time, they are generally considered stable enough to be measured. People can express their attitudes accurately. It is assumed that individuals can and will truthfully report their attitudes when asked. Attitude measurement scales are valid and reliable. The methods used should consistently measure what they intend to measure. Attitude scales. Attitude scales are tools used to measure individuals' attitudes toward an object, issue, or person. The main types of attitude scales include 1. Method of equal appearing intervals, Thurston scale. Developed by L. L. Thurston. Involves creating a series of statements about an attitude object. Judges rate each statement on a scale, e.g., 1 to 11, based on how favorable or unfavorable they believe it is. The final scale consists of items that are evenly distributed along an attitude continuum. Limitation, complex and time-consuming due to the need for expert judgment. 2. Method of summated ratings, Likert scale. Developed by Rensis Likert. Respondents express their level of agreement or disagreement with a set of statements, e.g., strongly agree to strongly disagree. Each response is assigned a numerical value, and a total score is computed. Advantages, easy to construct and widely used. Limitation, assumes equal spacing between response options, which may not always be accurate. 3. Cumulative scaling, Gutman scale. Developed by Louis Gutmann. Consists of statements arranged in increasing order of intensity. If a respondent agrees with a higher intensity statement, they are assumed to agree with all lower intensity statements. Limitation, difficult to construct as it requires perfect scalability. 4. Semantic differential scale. Developed by Charles E. Osgood. Uses bipolar adjectives, e.g., good I bad, strong weak, to measure attitudes. Respondents rate an object on a scale between these opposite adjectives. Advantages, measures both the direction and intensity of attitudes. Limitation, interpretation of adjective pairs can be subjective. Limitations of attitude measurement. Social desirability bias, people may provide socially acceptable responses rather than their true attitudes. Subjectivity in interpretation, respondents may interpret statements or scales differently. Contextual influences, the setting or framing of questions may affect responses. Limited predictive power, attitude does not always directly predict behavior due to external factors. Scale construction challenges, some scales require expert judgment and rigorous testing to ensure validity and reliability. Response bias, some individuals may tend to agree with all statements, acquiescence bias, or choose middle options, central tendency bias.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in next video.